AOC goes unhinged over new House Speaker Mike Johnson, citing debunked J6 conspiracy theories *100% fedup.com by Daniel. You know the House GOP made the right choice for Speaker when NY Congresswomen goes unhinged. AOC took on social media to slam Mike Johnson, citing widely debunked January 6 conspiracy theories. On Twitter, AOC wrote, introducing extremist GOP Speaker nominee Mike Johnson. He was a key architect of the January 6 strategy to overturn the U.S. election. Here he is leading a crowd that's booing and telling a Congressional correspondent to shut up when asking about it. I think we all know there weren't any architects behind J6, except for maybe people in the establishment. By all accounts, J6 was a failure on behalf of Nancy Pelosi, who reportedly refused to activate the Capitol Police. President Trump begged for the National Guard to be activated as well, but that request was denied. In other words, J6 was a security failure that hurt Republicans politically. So, why would there have been any Republican orchestrating it? AOC has been outspoken throughout this entire process. Before Mike Johnson was unanimously elected by Republicans, Byron Donalds, a black Republican, was also in the running. Rep. Byron Donalds, R. Florida, clapped back at Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's, DNY, comments she made Sunday with MSNBC's Mehdi Hasan. Before I got to Congress, I spent 20 years in the financial industry, something that leadership here on Capitol Hill definitely needs, Donald said on Fox's The Story, with Martha McCallum on Monday. Time equals 400 Ms. greater than, number 2. I spent 4 years in the legislature in Florida. I chaired 2 committees there, and number 3, since being here on Capitol Hill, I've worked intimately with members of our leadership team and members all through the conference, both appropriators and authorizers, to get some of our biggest pieces of legislation accomplished this Congress, he said. Time equals 400 Ms. greater than, he added. So, with all due respect to Miss Ocasio-Cortez, she doesn't know what she's talking about. And if the Democrats are this concerned, I would tell my colleagues, see what happens if I become your speaker. Ocasio-Cortez jabbed the Republican representative on Sunday, arguing that he's only served 1 term in the House and submitted false evidence during a Biden impeachment hearing. AOC can throw all the jabs she wants, but Mike Johnson is now Speaker of the House, and AOC, thankfully, is not. The good news is that Mike Johnson is a big ally of President Trump. Time equals 400 Ms. greater than. In fact, President Trump himself supported Johnson for Speaker. Despite all her bullying, Mike Johnson has support of the entire Republican House caucus. And fortunately for patriots, he is unwavering in his support of President Trump. Even CNN confirms the Republican-led House elected Representative Mike Johnson as the new House Speaker on Wednesday, a major leadership change that comes 3 weeks after the historic ouster of Kevin McCarthy. Johnson, a vocal supporter of former President Donald Trump and a key congressional figure in the failed efforts to overturn the 2020 election, will now take the reins of the bitterly divided House Republican majority and faces the looming threat of a government shutdown next month. Johnson's elevation puts an end to the paralysis the House had been stuck in after McCarthy was pushed out by hardline conservatives, an unprecedented move that plunged the chamber into uncharted territory. Republicans tried and failed 3 separate times to coalesce behind a new Speaker nominee before ultimately uniting around Johnson, a conservative lawmaker who has so far had a relatively low profile on the national stage. In a remarkable show of unity following weeks of fierce GOP infighting, the Louisiana Republican was elected with 220 votes and no Republican defections. The new Speaker will now face a litany of pressing issues. Government funding is set to expire on November 17, and the GOP-controlled House will need to work with the Democratic-led Senate to avert a shutdown, setting up an early leadership test for Johnson. Lawmakers must also decide whether to send further aid to Ukraine as it fights a war against Russian aggression, as well as aid to Israel in its war against Hamas. There is widespread bipartisan support for aid to Israel, but many House Republicans are opposed to sending additional aid to Ukraine. After AOC's outburst on social media, it will be interesting to see if she can keep it professional in the House. Given how disruptive the squad can be, it'll be interesting to see how the next 2 years unfold. With Speaker Johnson's leadership, the Republicans have a chance to showcase the strength of their vision against AOC and the radical left's agenda.